Today marks the first day of Lent in the Christian liturgical calendar, a time where our nation would historically contemplate life, reflect, make sacrifices for 40 days to mark Christ's 40 days in the desert before the rebirth and renewal that begins at Easter. Yet in 2025 in the UK, you wouldn't even know that Lent has begun. None of our major institutions have thought it worth mentioning, not the Prime Minister, not the royal family, not even the Church. In fact, yesterday was Shrove Tuesday, a day where you're supposed to confess your sins before the Lenten season, and the Church of England didn't even think it was worth mentioning on their Twitter page. Instead, they posted this video on your screen now about net zero aims. Goes to show where their priorities lay, huh? It's the same with the royal family. Here's the king. Remember, he's supposed to be the head of the Church of England. He's peeling some dates in preparation for Ramadan a few days ago there. And here are the royal family wishing Muslims in the UK and around the world a, quote, blessed and peaceful Ramadan. But when it comes to Lent, nothing. Now, if you were an alien who came to the modern UK from a faraway planet, you could be forgiven for thinking that, judging by the behaviour of our elites and our leaders, that the UK is essentially an Islamic or Muslim country.
Allahu Akbar, Allah.
That was the Islamic call to prayer there in Windsor Castle. And on your screen now is a picture featuring some of the Labour head honchos, including the Starminator himself, from a Ramadan iftar event inside Westminster Hall in Parliament. Here's what Starmer had to say afterwards.
British Muslims are amongst the most generous group in the United Kingdom and beyond. So I must say thank you to you for all of that, and particularly what I know has been a very difficult time for Muslims here in the United Kingdom, with the pain of the conflict in Gaza and the suffering of the Palestinians.
That last statement is especially odd because you may well remember it wasn't so long ago we had a report from Wes Streeting and the unbearable Anna Soubry redefining Islamophobia again to make it even more stringent. They stated in that report accusing Muslim citizens of being more loyal to the Ummah, that's the transnational Muslim community, or to their countries of origin or alleged priorities of Muslims worldwide than to the interest of their own nations is Islamophobic. So if we're following that definition, then isn't Starmer doing something of a racism himself there? I mean, why would Muslims in Britain care about Muslims in Palestine if they have no loyalty to the Ummah and it's Islamophobic to think so? But of course, none of this is about coherence. It's about our liberal overlords flexing their muscles and satisfying the demands of one of their client groups. I'm sure many Muslims are very eager to implement even more stringent rules around what you can and can't say around Islam to implement effective blasphemy laws. But when it comes to alleged racism and quote-unquote Islamophobia, why do we need special rules for one group? We already have anti-racist laws, laws against stirring up violence and so on. Well, my theory is that in liberal modernity, everything traditional, everything that expresses unique Western identity must be gutted out, destroyed, and then reinflated with liberal ideology at its core. We see this in the Church of England, in the royal family, in the government. All of them hold to the same liberal ideology. And this is because we're not in the era of great kings, priests, or warriors at the moment. We're in the era of the mass material man, he who is divorced from all the non-rational parts of life, such as spirit, nation, peoples, culture. The ethic of this era, then, is to be anti-Western. To be moral through the eyes of the liberal is to be welcoming and obsequiously obliging to the dictates and wants of foreign peoples and religions. Behaving in this way signals to the liberal power structure that you're not some ignorant, atavistic monster from a bygone world, but instead a modern, enlightened person who has a big heart and dutifully adheres to the God of our age, tolerance and diversity. And this is why our leaders are so obsessive about every single little nuance to do with Islamophobia and new rules to stop people saying anything critical of Islam. It's not actually about Islam, it's about them. They believe it makes them more moral, better people because it speaks to the spirit of the age, the religion of the age, which is liberalism. And this is leading to quite a fascinating situation in the UK and Europe at large as well. The ruling system, the ruling spirit of the age is liberalism. However, that's collapsing all over the place now. People across the Western world are seeking something deeper and earthier. Islam is the new kid on the block in the West, and it's very strong. It has lots of adherents, it's growing, and people are very, very committed. However, it's also got challenges because it's increasingly decadent and it's getting impacted by liberalism in the same way Christianity was. And then we have our own historic tradition, that of Christendom. Although it is admittedly completely dormant at the moment, meaning it's just a shell of itself, it's completely servile to the liberal order over God at the moment, which makes it obviously weak and a bit of a joke. But with the impending collapse of the West, we could see a rebirth in the Christian tradition here, which focuses on a new dimension of the faith, namely the wise father. At the moment, because the church is very taken over by liberalism, the feminine aspects of the church are emphasised. Jesus is seen as more of a tolerant hippie than a wise figure. Of course, reawakening this wisdom along with personal and spiritual transformation is a mission of mine. I think it will serve as well for the coming storms. Do check that out down below on the Substack if you're interested. Other than that, do let me know your thoughts about this in the comments and do consider subscribing to the channel if you're new.